we're here this afternoon at Judy's Affordable Vintage Fair, which has visited Brighton Racecourse, and luckily we are getting to speak to Judy.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm really well, yeah, tired, but
Of course.
we've had a really successful day.
Now you do this in, you're saying now 20 cities?
20
is it now?
cities in the UK, from Glasgow all the way down to Brighton.
Wow.
So we're busy.
Okay, so now, so effectively you're organising all of these fairs at these different locations. Is it that a lot of the traders are following you around, or are they local traders in each different venue?
We try and get a really good mix, so we have local traders coming, because of course we can't forget the local people of every city we go to, but a lot of them do every fair with me.
Really?
So we're like a big travelling vintage family.
That must be amazing.
It is, we all know each other, we bicker like family as well.
Okay.
But yeah, we love it, and some people have actually given up the day job to come on the road and come and do vintage fairs. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. So the periods covered by most of your stallholders would be what, do you think?
We cover a huge spectrum. So what we like to say is 1920s to the 1980s.
Right.
I know some people think that 1980s isn't vintage, but the students and younger people, it's cheaper and easier to buy.
Yeah.
And some traders do have things pre-1920s, but I like to think of that as antique and period as opposed to vintage.
Okay. I mean, we've been arguing about the difference between what's retro, what's vintage,
Yeah.
and what's antique.
We all have our own views on that. I mean,
yeah.
for me, anything between 15 and 25 years old is retro. Anything over 25 years old is vintage. And generally anything over 80, 90 years old is period, antique.
I know this is your first visit to the Brighton Racecourse
Yeah.
site, but when did all this begin for you?
It started over 5 years ago now. So we had, I wanted to create a new type of vintage event. I was working as a fashion stylist, but I was really interested in how people reuse, wear something that somebody else has worn, or look back. When I studied fashion, I was really interested in the history of items, and not just something of that period, but an actual story that would go with the item and how nice that was. And when I started visiting vintage fairs, I found that quite a lot of them had things were quite precious. And some vintage I feel shouldn't be so precious, so I set up a new type of event in London, and then within about 8 months I started touring it around the country.
I'm presuming that most of the 80s kit that's here would be real.
Yeah.
But if you're going back a lot further,
Yeah.
Is it the stuff here is reproduction, or is it mainly original?
I think you'll find that that it is mainly original. What we say to our traders is make it affordable, but we don't ever want anybody to be ripped off. So we do stall checks, and the people that we have here as traders, they do know what they're talking about. I mean, sometimes I know with labels like Bieber and some iconic labels, they have been copied, and it is very difficult to tell. It's about finding the right trader, which thankfully we do have here, who will be able to tell and will be able to inform people. So if something is repro, they will tell somebody it's repro.
Excellent.
And then you'll pay less for it.
Okay, so obviously we're here today.
Yeah.
That means anyone that's going to be watching this footage won't have been, or
Yes.
probably won't have been. So when next are you running a Brighton event?
We're going to come back to Brighton in May. Because this was our first one, we really needed to get the feedback from people and see how people took it. And what we've decided to do is put lots more fashion in this big room, and we're going to have a big homewares and furniture section in the other room. We're going to have, we unfortunately didn't have our live music today, our 1940s singing sensations. Fortunately one of them was poorly, but hopefully next time we'll have more music, more things going on. We'll be back in May.
And if they need to get stuff sooner,
yeah.
Where's your next venue from here?
Our next venue that's closer is London. We've got a huge vintage furniture flea on the 21st of November. That's my new venture at York Hall in Bethnal Green, and that is mid-century homewares and furniture. But if anyone wants any details, visit our website.
Obviously, everything's on your website.
Yeah,
yes.
vintagefair.co.uk.
That's fantastic. Okay, Judy,
All right.
I'll let you get
Yeah.
back to taking money
Thank
from
you.
people. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your time.